Hi everyone, in this video we're going to look at how long should a recovery or easy run be. Now, often this is kind of put in terms of distance, and we tend to think mostly in, say, kilometres or miles for our easy runs and for a lot of our runs as well. But in this case, actually time is kind of more important really than anything else. We'd still phrase it in terms of distance. So you would say I'm going to go for a 6 mile easy run. You wouldn't probably say I'm going to go for a 53-minute easy run. Say that's your average pace over 6 miles, average time over 6 miles. But we do need to think of it in time realistically. So there aren't any kind of hard and fast rules with this, but there are some good guidelines that work really well. So generally you want to be looking around 45 to 60 minutes for your easy runs at most. Generally I find a 60 minutes, even if a very easy pace, does still feel quite tiring for a few reasons, which I'll delve into a few minutes time. So I would generally lean for most people, 30 to 45 minutes probably being at most. And it depends on your speed and your fitness levels. Obviously, if you're running, say, a 4-hour marathon, your easy run pace is going to be around about 10-minute miles. So actually 3 miles might be plenty for an easy run at this stage in your training. So there aren't, as ever, really any hard and fast rules. There is context-dependent guidelines, essentially, that really have to be considered. So what we're really looking at is training load. We're not looking at distance. We're not necessarily looking at pace, although we do consider those things. What we're looking at is training load, which is essentially the intensity times by the volume of training or the distance or time that you're training for. So a shorter, easier run, a shorter run at a faster pace may have less of a training load than a longer run at an easier pace. So for instance, you're doing 3 miles and you're running a marathon pace plus say 45 seconds per mile. That may have less training load, or would have less training load in all likelihood, than a 5-mile run at marathon pace plus a minute per mile, because you're running much less time. So it's important to factor in lots of these things. Often people talk about the paces for for easy runs, and it is something to consider, no doubt about it, because we're looking for that to be an easy effort. So often if you're looking at heart rates, it'll be zone 1 or zone 2, maybe just dipping into zone 3 occasionally on an uphill or into a wind, or if it's particularly hot, you might also dip into that area as well. But it really is dependent on all of those different factors. If you're coming back from injury, for instance, then what I've done in the past is I've been cutting down the volume in terms of training, so I've not been running as far, but I've then maybe pushed those easier runs a little bit quicker, or let the pace kind of come a little bit faster if it wants to. So that way you can get the full benefit of those training sessions in particular. But if I'm running 3 to 4 miles, I'm used to running 7 miles for an easy run, then running those miles maybe 10 to 15 seconds per mile faster actually isn't that big a deal. And if your mechanics are slightly better at a faster pace, then actually that's a better option. If it allows you to focus on moving well when coming back from an injury, or when you're increasing running volume overall, then running quicker but shorter can be a really good way just to start stepping up that distance. There's lots of things to say to focus in with this one. So looking at pace to start off with, we really want to be looking at this around about 45 to 60 seconds above marathon pace that you're going to aim for. If you're looking at, say, 5k time, another general rule of thumb is 2 minutes over your 5k pace per mile. I don't necessarily prescribe to these too much, but I do kind of work roughly within them. Heart rate training zones, again, if you're working just off your watch, they won't be accurate, so I wouldn't listen to them too much. It is more about your effort level overall. If you're using a heart rate monitor on the chest, which is the most accurate measurement we can get really for training purposes, then yes, you want to probably look at those zone 1 and zone 2 areas, and say just dipping occasionally into zone 3 if you see like a bit of a spike in heart rate. That said, it won't always feel easy. So there have been times when I've been doing an easy run where my heart, my lungs have felt fantastic, been full of energy, but my legs have been absolutely knackered from a long run the day before. Or if it's a very early morning session, your legs are a bit stiff in the morning, as often they are for us runners. Or if you've run club session on, let's say, a Monday or Tuesday night, and then you're running in the morning the next day, the legs will probably feel heavy, and that won't necessarily feel like an easy effort, even though it is an easy run. So there's lots of other things to focus into this. The other thing to focus on as well is that I've seen it at times put down that people are going, oh, it's just an easy run, but they're doing 13, 14 miles for a long run. There's a difference between an easy paced long run and an easy/recovery run, and that's really, really clear to get. So your midweek easy runs, or even a weekend easy run, should be exactly that. It should be a nice, comfortable effort, either in heart rates or in legs or in both, depending on where your preference is or where your strength lies around cardiovascular endurance versus muscular endurance. And that will also change throughout training periods as well. So key thing is, time-wise, 45 to 60 minutes at most. 30 or 45 minutes is absolutely fine as well. And for depending on where your fitness is and what pace you're running, that's a really good time frame to run at. Marathon pace plus 45 to 60 seconds is a good pacing for that distance as well. The key thing is that we're basically trying to take a nice, easy training session where the load on the body isn't very, very high, and that we are going to actually, in the period between your last hard session and your next hard session, even with the easy run, you're still going to be recovering and building up, ready to hit that next session really hard. That is the key thing from an easy run or recovery run. So distance-wise, there aren't any definite sets, but the rules between 30 to 60 minutes, easy pace, 45 to 60 seconds over marathon pace is a good marker to go for. See you soon.